Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books, and today I am here with the 52 Nifty Bookish Questions tag, and I was tagged by Cousin over at Always Doing. I will link her video in her channel down below. I will also link the original creator of this tag, who was Stripped Cover Lit, so you can find all that useful information down below. And this, yeah, y'all don't know how frustrating this video has been for me. Is this the third time I try to film this? So let's just get started so that hopefully this works out and third time's the charm. Question number one, what book are you reading right now? And I just finished a book that, if you follow me on Instagram, you would have already seen, The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. It's the Iliad retelling, and I really. But I am listening to The Daily Show, An Oral History. So it's a book that was released back when The Daily Show was ending, or when The Daily Show with Jon Stewart was ending, before they were about to transition to Trevor Noah. And that show was like a big part of like my college years. So kind of going back to a lot of that has been very nostalgic for me. Yes. Then question number two, what was the last thing you highlighted? So the last thing I highlighted, I was going to say The Silence of the Girls. Yeah, it's still The Silence of the Girls. This is probably the very last thing I highlighted since I just finished it. There's a passage in here that reminded me of another kind of reinterpretation of the Iliad, and I wanted to make sure that I talked about it with my class. Another book I recently highlighted was Achilles in Vietnam. I've been going back to it because I'm discussing the Iliad and retellings of the Iliad with my class. So yes, those are the last few things I've been highlighting. Question number three, what do you plan to read next? So I already have my Kindle all ready to go to read Once Ghosted, Twice Shy, I think it's what it's called, is the Alyssa Cole novella in the Reluctant Royal series. And yeah, ready to start that today. Question number four, one fiction writer, living or dead, with whom you'd grab a drink. And I seriously swear that every time I've sat down to film this video, I think I've come up with a different answer to this. But I think it would be Jane Austen, because she would be like so witty and like drunk, probably even more so. So I don't know, I think she would be fun. Question number five, one nonfiction writer, living or dead, with whom you'd like to grab a drink. And that is Simone de Beauvoir. She wrote both fiction and nonfiction, but the first thing I ever read of hers was The Second Sex, and it was like life transforming. And also, like, wouldn't it be great to like grab a drink with her in Paris? Perfection. Yes. Question number six, one poet, living or dead, with whom you'd like to grab a drink. And I don't read a whole lot of poetry, so the last thing I read that was in verse was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. And she seems like just a really cool human being. So if I have to pick a poet, it would be her. Question number seven, one booktuber with whom you would like to grab a drink. And here's the problem I ran into with this question, that I don't know which of them drink or don't drink. So I think I'm gonna skip this one because I feel like I would need to know whether they drink or not. But there's like a whole lot of cool people on BookTube that I think would be really great to hang out with. So yeah. Question number eight, Emily Dickinson or Edgar Allan Poe? I think I would have to go with Edgar Allan Poe, only because he's the only one I've read. I haven't read Emily Dickinson, but I have a feeling that if I read Emily Dickinson, I would prefer her. Hemingway or Fitzgerald is number nine. Hemingway? I don't know. Question number 10, Jane Austen or Charles Dickens? Jane Austen for sure. I love Austen and I've read all her books, and yeah. 11, Harris or Hitchens? Haven't read either, so none. 12, Stephen King or Michael Crichton? I've read, have I read? I don't think I've read either one of them. Yeah, I haven't read either one. Have I really not read any Stephen King? No. I've bought a couple of books, but so yeah, I don't know which one. 13, Bret Easton Ellis or Chuck Palahniuk. Haven't read either one. 14 is Kurt Vonnegut or John Green, and I would have to go with Kurt Vonnegut because I love his books, and I haven't read any John Green, so no hate on him. I just haven't read them. Question number 15, Shakespeare's poems or plays? Oh, plays for sure. I mean, I don't even like all the plays, but yeah, plays. 16, Adrian Ford or Dalton Gentry. Haven't read either one. Question number 17 is Cormac McCarthy or J.K. Rowling. I've only read J.K. Rowling, so I'm going to have to go with her. 18, Hannibal Lecter or Voldemort. Oh. For what, though? I feel like they're both kind of evil geniuses and really, really creepy, and I wouldn't want to be near either one of them. Maybe Voldemort, because he's worse. Like, as in, yeah, I don't know. 19, P.C. Boyle or George Saunders. Haven't read either one either, so I'm gonna have to skip that one. 20 is good writing or a good story. Oh, a good story for me. I am a very plot-driven reader. I can get over bad writing a lot of the times, but I can't get over no plot. If there's no plot, I'm like, what's the point? Question number 21, YA or children's lit. I don't read a whole lot of children's lit, so I'm going to have to go with YA. Question number 22 is irony or humor. I feel like humor is harder, so I'm going to go with humor. 23, sci-fi or horror. Oh, I like both. Sci-fi. 24, fantasy or non-fiction. I'm going to go with fantasy because for me, non-fiction a lot of times equals work. Most of the time equals work. So, fantasy. 25, rather find a new favorite contemporary writer or a new favorite old-time great. Oh. Rather find a new contemporary, probably. Because then I can find them on social media and learn a lot more about them than I can about some of these older classics. My logic's a little faulty, but we'll go with that. 26, sonnet or haiku. Oh, and Cousin had a great little bit of info about haikus, and I totally have forgotten it. But not neither. No, haikus. They're nice and short. I'm terrible. Don't come to me don't come to my channel for poetry discussions. I'm terrible at it. And 27, Sestina or Villanelle. I don't know what it's referring to, so I'm going to skip that one. Number 28, spend the evening in the library or the bookstore. Oh, here's one where like I can't possibly choose, library or the bookstore. Both are quiet spaces with lots of books and interesting people, and either one of those. 29, magazine or Wikipedia article. I guess I'm on Wikipedia more often than I pick up a magazine, but I would go magazine. Number 30 is dictionary or encyclopedia. Dictionary. Yes, I've got plenty of them up here. 31, the writer I would like to write my biography. Oh. Ooh. I feel like my biography would be pretty boring to write, but that, having recently read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, like she could make it interesting probably. So if I have to pick someone, maybe her. 32, I do not highlight in my books. Oh, I do, absolutely. Like, you have to get over it when you go to college, I feel like, because that's part of like active reading for me. And I don't always do it with fiction books, but yeah, highlight, tab, write on. I'm all about that life. 33, I do not write in my books, so clearly yes, writing is awesome. on books. Because you know what? I love when you pick up an old manuscript and it's got somebody's annotations, because then you're getting like layers of history and of like reading generations. It's beautiful. I love it. Everyone, you should all be writing in all your books. 34, earliest memory of a library. Going with my mom. My mom loved taking us to the library, and yeah, and I remember one of the first books that she like suggested for me to read was "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret." I think that was her way of like having the talk with me early on. I mean, we had that awkward conversation of like, you know, the birds and the bees, but she suggested I pick up that book before she ever tried to have the talk with me. Last time you went to the library, last month, 2 months ago now, I think 2 months ago I went to the library. I am in a position where I can afford to buy books, so I have been preferring that, but I love libraries and I will always continue to go to libraries. Number 36, have you ever accidentally stolen books from the library? Not that I can recall. I know we had a few scares growing up where it was like, where's the book? It's due. Had to pay late fees and all that stuff, but I don't think I've ever lost a book from the library. 37, ballpark. How many books do you own? Oh, who knows? Do you look at these shelves that I sit behind? And these are all just my academic books. Hundreds, at least 300. Probably more, probably closer to 500. And that doesn't even take into account all the books that are at my parents' house. So yeah, hundreds. No point in counting at this point. I'm also a professor though. Like, I need to own a ton of books. And that's just... Okay, number 38. How many books do you think would make a reasonable personal library? There's no such thing as a reasonable personal library. It's all about, one, the space you have and the amount of money you have. And there are no requirements, no minimums, no maximums. That's it. Number 39. So there is Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, etc. How do you feel about the phenomenon? Love it. I read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I haven't read Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters, but I would be up for it. Anything like that will grab a reader and introduce them to like the world of books and the world of classics, I think is beautiful. And I'm not a purist with the classics, and yeah, I like whatever will get somebody to pick up a book, I think is fantastic. 40, horror trope you would like to see get more love. I don't know. I don't read enough horror to really dig into the tropes, I feel like. I'm not against horror though, so I don't have a good answer for that one. 41, something that you think gets underutilized in sci-fi. Women. Sci-fi written by men needs to do better with its female characters, I feel like. Not all of them, just in general, especially some of the older sci-fi. 42, flash fiction, form of literature or just a short story. I don't know. I feel like, why are people trying to police what counts as literature and what doesn't? Form of literature. 43, if you could own one book from all of history, what would it be? All of history. The Code of Hammurabi. It's not really a book. It's written on stone. But I recently taught it, so I'm like trying to pick something really ancient. That, or like a first edition of a Jane Austen, like that would be really great to own. What else? I'm a historian. I should the first time they wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. That's not a book either, but it's a document. Yeah, I could probably sit down and think of a bunch, but let's just stick with those for now. 44, audiobooks, same as reading? Yes, I read audiobooks. And I'm a historian, so I think what gets lost in this discussion is that reading physical books is a super modern thing. When the printing press first came about and you started seeing more books out available to people didn't know how to read and write. So the way people consumed those stories was by through audibly hearing those books read out loud, which is the same as an audiobook. So I'm like, for most of our reading history, or for all of our early reading history, like the auditory experience has been reading. So yeah, they count as books. Like I listen to books and I count them as reading. All right, so number 45 is most literary songwriter of your lifetime. I'm not a huge music person, and apparently my taste in music in English is terrible, but in Spanish is great. So I would have to say, oh, there's a couple. So I really like Ricardo Arjona, who is a Guatemalan singer-songwriter, and he just writes beautiful stories. His songs are beautiful stories. Apparently musically not that interesting, but the stories are beautiful. There's also Marco Antonio Solis, who is my dad's favorite singer-songwriter, and I like to poke his buns about it, but I do think he writes beautiful, beautiful lyrics, and it's beautiful. So yeah, if you haven't heard either one of those, and you are learning Spanish or know Spanish, you should definitely check those two out. All right, so number 46 is where we're at now. What writer embarrasses you the most because you haven't read them? Alexander Dumas. Yes, because I should have read him. I'm a historian of France, and I feel like I should have read him, and I haven't. Number 47. What writer embarrasses you because you've read too much of them? There's no such thing as reading too much of a writer. And also, as some people have been pointing out, like, none of this reading stuff should be embarrassing. Like, why would you be embarrassed about reading? I read quite widely. I read a lot of romance. I read smut, and I don't think it's embarrassing. There was a point in my life in which it's not that I was embarrassed. I just felt that people would be judgmental about it, and I didn't want to deal with it, so I would like cover up the books to read in public, because I just didn't want people like talking to me about it, but I would never do that today. Yeah, I would welcome. I'd be like, come try to judge me for my reading so I can put you in your place. Actually, I'm so non-confrontational, I probably wouldn't even do that. But all right, number 48. What is a biography you've been looking forward to reading? Romantic Outlaws, which is about Mary Shelley and her mom. Yes, so it's about the Wollstonecraft women. I've heard really good things about it, and I'm really interested in them. 49. Do you have a dream reading cubby? What does that mean? I'm not sure what this question is asking. Like a dream reading? I don't know, but no. Question number 50. Last literary phenomenon that really got your gears grinding. I love participating in conversations of controversial books because I think those conversations are worth, like, a lot of times even more than the books themselves. Like the conversations around Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey, I think were conversations that were necessary part of our culture and that advanced, a lot of topics in positive ways. So I like all of those discussions, and I love participating in them. So yeah. 51. What was the last piece of literature that changed the way you read? Oh, that changed the way I read. Ooh, that's a tricky question because I feel like when you read a lot, there are very few books that have that kind of effect on you, that are like life-changing or change the way you read. So a few books that have done that for me over the course of my reading life have been the autobiography of Malcolm X, and I think a lot of that was because of the time in my life in which I read it, which I was still young, and exploring topics of race and injustice in the U.S. And so that book just was, it just was mind-blowing, and it got me it set me down a really great path in reading. The Bell Jar also did that for me. And Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex also did that for me. So yeah. Question number 52. So last one is, what booktuber have you been watching the most recently? I tend to do most of my booktube watching on the weekend because weeks are really busy for me right now. But I've been watching Cousin at Always Doing a lot. I've been watching Mara at Books Like Whoa a lot. I've been watching Doris at All the Books a lot. And a few other people, Jessie over at Jessie's Shelf, I've been watching a lot. I also just discovered Olivia over at Olivia's Catastrophe. So yeah, there's a lot of people that I think are really great on BookTube, and I love that I am constantly finding new bookish people on YouTube and on Bookstagram and on Twitter, and it's really great to have access to this kind of community, because I think it's definitely something that I would have loved when I was younger, and I was the only person who loved reading in my circle of friends. And now I feel like, whatever your interest or hobbies might be, there's a community out there for you, and it's wonderful. So anyways, I will stop here now. Those are the 52 questions. If you've done this tag or want to do it, you can consider yourself tagged, and let me know down below if you've watched it, because I loved hearing people's responses to some of these questions, and it's always fun to learn a little bit about people through these tags. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.